Henry, who is the vice chair?
I believe it's Cheryl.
Is it?
I believe.
I mean, I'm just wondering if we want to give Adriana a little bit more time and then it's not the, oh, there we go. Just in time. Cheryl, you're spared.
Thank goodness. There's an excellent script to follow though, so I'm sure I could have handled it.
Hello, Adriana.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. We're all here.
We have quorum?
Yes.
Great. I'm sorry, my computer was a bit slow. Right, let me have the script. I don't know what happened. One second. All right. I think we got it. So, right, welcome to our meeting, Board of Library Trustees of December 13. Time is 6:04, and Jinder, can you call the roll, please? You're
here.
Yes.
Here.
Trustee Lentini.
Here.
Trustee Vidot.
Here.
Chair Duque.
Here. Thanks, Jinder. Can you explain how the public can participate? If there's anyone on.
Good evening, everyone. Viewers are welcome to provide public comment online through Zoom or by telephone at 669-444-9171. And the meeting ID is 815-8552-6324#. If you're watching the meeting on Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please select the raise hand feature either on the bottom of your screen or through the participants icon. If you're participating by telephone and wish to provide public comment, please press *9 when the chair opens the public comment period. When it is your turn to speak, you will be notified that the host is inviting you to participate. You will need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Once you are unmuted, you will have 3 minutes to provide your comments. For closed captioning, please click the live transcript button, then click show subtitle.
Thank you, Jinder. Are there any amendments to this evening's agenda? Take that as a no. So let's go to the first item, approve regular meeting minutes of October 11th. Any questions from trustees to staff or from public? All right, does anyone want to motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I reviewed the minutes at the last meeting, and so I can go ahead and ask for approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Anyone wants a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jamie. Jinder, can you roll call vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Lentini.
Abstain?
Trustee Vidot.
Abstain.
Chair Duque.
Aye. Great. So second item, public comment from the audience regarding items not listed on the agenda. Speakers are encouraged to limit comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment? No. Okay. So let's go to item 3. Introductions, awards, recognitions, presentations. I hand it over to Dan.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet some of you that I haven't met before. I'm going to share my screen now and have a short presentation about our all-staff day.
I'm sorry, Dan, have you been on a call before?
I have, yes.
I must have missed that one.
I couldn't tell you what
Okay.
was off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, nice to see you again.
Yes, I presented on school library cards a few months ago. Okay, so my name's Dan Cottrell. I'm a supervising librarian here at San Rafael. And like I said before, here to talk to you about our all staff day. This was our first all staff day in about 3 years. All Staff Day 2022 was a chance for staff to be away from the library, reflect on our work, and focus on this year's theme, which was connecting the community with our collection, which was kind of a way of talking, which too. This was put on in conjunction with a couple of consultants. We hired Katie Stover from Kansas City Public Library and Stephanie Chase from the Libraries of Eastern Oregon. And the reason why I said it's kind of a clever way to talk about Reader's Advisory is we have a number of staff who do not have librarian as a title, and so they don't necessarily feel like they are equipped to do Reader's Advisory. So we tried to do this without ever saying the words Reader's Advisory. We wanted to frame it in a different way. So we tried to get our staff to think about library collections, which required various things, a little bit of educating about media literacy, which we'll get to as well. But we encourage them to consider several aspects of the collections. Who is present in them? How do you or patrons connect with the collections? And what do you know or not know about our collections? And one other way, the media literacy aspect, is consider doorways or appeal factors to materials in the collection, like the story, the character, the setting, frame, language, or tone. Not everyone necessarily has a language, a practice language for discussing these things. So that was one aspect of All Staff Day. Whoop, I went back. There we go. And we led off fairly early with a discussion of an essay called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors by Rudine Sims Bishop in 1990. And she presents this metaphor for understanding books, but you could use it, for other materials as well in our collections. She said that books are windows that offer a view of the world, real or imagined. But those windows can also be sliding glass doors, windows which must be opened and walked through into a world imagined by an author. And the windows can also be mirrors, which reflect readers and affirm them through that act of self-recognition as they engage with the material. And here's a quote from that essay. When children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in the society of which they are a part. So you can see there's a bit of it, what today we would call a DEI focus to this, but it's written 32 years ago. And the way that we set about most of the day in approaching how to connect our community with our collections with this DEI kind of focus is through design thinking. So we split up into 6 groups of staff members, which included supervisory staff. I was there, as were Henry and Catherine. And so we split into these groups, each with its own challenge, and we would go through that challenge with this design thinking process. So on the left, you'll see the process of design thinking. Notice your own biases. Again, that ties into the DEI focus. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and reflect. And I'll talk about group one specifically because I was part of group one. How to make sure patrons leave with something in hand. And you'll see that as part of the design thinking process, my group actually kind of retooled the challenge itself because we started to think about things from the patron's point of view from the get-go. So the way that we reframed that question was bringing materials you might not know that we had to your hands. And the way that my group decided to do this was through creating what we called a spotlight collection. And that idea was basically to bring out a whole collection, for example, travel books, and put it all on display. This is kind of a sky's the limit kind of thing, though this isn't necessarily pie in the sky in this example. You'll see on the next slide some examples that are a little bit more inventive than this one, but this one's very doable. So the Spotlight collection will bring out a whole collection with mobile shelving and coordinate social media around that. So send out an email once a month saying this is this month's Spotlight collection, then we'll have the Spotlight collection physically out front in a very visible, accessible location. So if people didn't know that we had, for example, test books, now they do. So that's one way of getting people to interact with things that they might not know that we had in the first place. And let's go to the next slide. So here are the other group's prototypes. You can see my favorite is this dog with an iPad here. The thinking is not everyone necessarily wants to interface with a human, but they might want to interface with a dog. So that's that one. Some of them are pretty hard to see. A connection corner, I believe this was Henry's group, where there'd be a TV and an example of all of our digital services. You navigate it, click on it, and it would be a little tutorial about how to use that service. And we go forward a little bit. So after we all created these prototypes, we circulated around, and for just a couple minutes for each other group, we kind of evaluated what we thought about them and which ones had the most promise. So by promise, we mean which would take the least staff time and have the highest benefit. And you can see here on the left, there's an axis here. Highest benefit up here, lower benefit down there, high amount of staff time on the right, low amount of staff time or effort on the left. So this is kind of the low-hanging fruit quadrant in the top left here. High benefit, low effort. And we put the number of each group that we thought fit in each quadrant to help us kind of prioritize how to go about actually enacting these proposals, these prototypes in some fashion. We might not be getting a dog right away, but we can hope. And design thinking has continued apace outside of that too, which I found interesting. This is I think the week after All Staff Day. We had a problem for our patrons where many of them come in with strollers to the kids' room and not have a place to park. So we cleared out a space and made these very, I think, intuitive signs. What you'll notice is there are no words, so you don't need much of any sort of literacy to understand what it's saying here. So that's design thinking in practice. Clearing out a space, putting up signs that require very little proficiency in English, for example, to understand this is how you use the space, and it's very welcoming and open that way. And it is used quite frequently every day, in fact. And I should say also, the Spotlight collection is in practice now in a certain respect. We started putting up a laminated sign around different parts of the library to say, right now it's on travel books in the downtown library. We have a sign and a literal spotlight that's battery powered to shine down on it. So it kind of helps people realize this is where a collection lives in the library. And you might not know that we even had those things. So it might not be exactly as we had in the prototype, but it is in practice already. And here is everyone who attended, just a nice group picture. That's all I have, short and sweet. Did anyone have any questions?
Dan, can you clarify where the spotlight is? I might have missed that in the library, where you find it.
Right now it is in the travel section. And
oh,
so
it's in the section, it's not. Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying like it's spotlighted when you walk in the library.
No, because
Okay.
we don't have much in the way of mobile shelving right now. So that was kind of the prototype idea, but we can't put that into action without the infrastructure for it.
Thank you, Dan. That was really interesting, and glad you were able to meet in person for the first time in 3 years. Any other questions or comments from trustees or public comment?
No public comment.
I was just going to ask, just in general, like, how did the staff feel about, going through those exercises and kind of what came out of it? Did staff feel like it was a good day, well spent, and, did everyone feel like they got a little something out of it?
Yeah, the feedback that I had was uniformly positive. And I can tell you from my own personal experience coming from other library systems with other staff days, this one was much more practical than most staff days I've experienced have been. It's very work related, and it's also fun because there's a very strong creative aspect to it. And I think other staff members got that as well. And for many staff members, this was their first staff day ever. Whether or not they've worked here before or not, because it's been 3 years. And also some of them are fairly young and have not had a career for that long. So I think it was a great introduction to what a staff day can be for them.
Great, thank you.
And Dan, is the idea then that the next steps will be to continue to seek opportunities as you have with the signs and the spotlighting?
Yeah, so the Katie and Stephanie, the consultants who helped us put this together, did a little recap with suggestions about how we could put various aspects of these prototypes into action, things that we could pull from them, and put into place. So yes, the spotlight collection is the most low-hanging fruit kind of project. That was the one that we could most easily do right away. Other ones would take a little bit more thought about how we could adapt it to our circumstances. But yeah, that's the general idea.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate the update.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions or comments, then we can move on to the next item. But thanks again, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Great job.
Okay, so item 4, review of Board of Trustees meeting schedule for 2023. Henry.
Yes, I have a presentation on this item. I will share my screen. Yes, can everyone see that? Cool. So this is a thing we do annually, reviewing the meeting schedule. It helps to sort of avoid maybe some conflicts that might occur, and we can all agree what the meeting schedule looks like. So yeah, this is something we do annually, and we can consider canceling or rescheduling meetings due to any potential holidays or conflicts. So yeah, it's recommended that the board review the meeting schedule and revise as necessary. Currently, we're meeting the second Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. We do this every year to sort of avoid conflicts and potentially meetings that could conflict with city council on the same date need to be either canceled or rescheduled. This sometimes happens when it's a holiday on the Monday, and so the city council could be moved to the Tuesday. My research has led me to ascertain that this is the schedule for next year. I didn't see any city council conflicts. I did find a sort of lesser known Jewish holiday on May 9th, Lag Bomer. You can look it up in Wikipedia. And then the December 12th is the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. None of my research led me to see any major holiday that might cause a conflict, but in case any of these two holidays might cause a conflict. And then with the caveat that generally other boards and commissions, I think this is the next slides, cancel in August and sometimes the December meeting, and we might wish to do the same. The reason we're meeting now, we're meeting now because we had thought to maybe talk at the previous meeting about canceling this meeting, but since we missed the previous meeting, we figured we should meet now. So that concludes my presentation. Would you like me to keep this slide up?
Yes, I was going to ask that.
Right. Cool.
So did we agree last year that we would do 10 meetings for 2022, and we canceled, I believe, the August and the December one and left those as possible? Like
I believe
now because the November didn't happen.
We agreed last year that we would cancel August and consider December. So December wasn't a lock.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I see to consider on this calendar is that April 11th, I believe, is during the Santa Fe City School District spring break. I don't know. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get quorum during those times.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was checking for those as well. Henry, do you know on the Did you look at the local school districts at all on those, Miller Creek or Santa Fe?
No, but I mean, I can look right now.
Yeah,
I know my
have
kid's school
the
is
Santa
out.
Fe City School District up, and that April 11th is the only date that conflicts with their holidays.
Yeah.
It's a spring
Not
break.
February, ski week, whatever that is.
No, the
That's
February break is the week
Easter
of the 20th.
break. Yeah. This April 11th will be the Easter break, right?
Yeah.
So do you usually, if it conflicts with Easter break, move it up a week or?
I think it's for this group to decide. If that's a significant issue if that's an issue for kind of a majority of people, we can decide to move that meeting now.
I think it was the same this year. It was the exact same spring break / Easter week when we had our April meeting. So does anybody have any clashes?
Did you move
on
it this
April
last
11th?
year? Do you remember?
I don't think so. No. We still had it. So if we don't have any clashes, we can keep it, right? So is anyone opposed to keeping April 11th?
I'm fine with April 11th. I'm looking at February, but because that might be a clash, but April's fine.
February 14th is Valentine's Day.
Oh my gosh.
Clearly not a lot of fans of love in this room.
Only the love of books.
There you go.
Oh.
Well said.
It's also, as we get closer to the date, if people's travel plans change and we discover we're not going to be able to get quorum on that date, we can revisit that later and reschedule if needed. We may also find that there's nothing time sensitive on the agenda. And we could push things to May if necessary. So, we can keep it for now and then have that discussion again if it looks like it's going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
My other question is, Henry, will you be outlining like you did last year, sort of what we'll be covering in each of the months?
That's a work plan, and it would come at a subsequent meeting.
Okay, perfect, great, thank you. And I had a question about, will the meetings continue to be Zoom in 2023, or are we going to go back in person at some point, or what's the plan?
You'll be getting some information from the city attorney and city clerk on that soon. With the end of the COVID declaration of emergency coming, there will be some changes, and we're trying to figure out what that looks like for all of our boards and commissions. And but yeah, that we're expecting that in the next couple of weeks we'll have some more information on that for everybody.
Okay.
That's a really good question, because that might change attendance for some of those. I mean, that Easter week for sure. The school break. Some of us might be able to attend on Zoom from elsewhere, but not in person.
Right. Yeah, so I think as we kind of move forward and all that becomes clear, if you want to let us know where there's conflicts that you wouldn't be able to attend, the sooner in advance we can plan for that, the easier it'll be for us to reschedule and still get on everyone's calendars.
Catherine, my question would also be, man, I just lost what I was going to say. Oh, okay. It'll come back to me, hopefully.
Well, while you remember it, Jamie, because we've all been there. So that April 11th, I for sure am not in town.
Okay.
So Zoom is good, in person not. But don't let me stop everybody.
Okay. Okay, I remember what I was gonna say. So Catherine, if hypothetically speaking, and if you want to just move this till the next conversation, if the city council is going to require, whatever it may be, to be in person, does each board and trustees, do they get to decide what they want to do?
I'm not sure. So I think we're gonna get guidance on that from the city attorney and the city clerk. They're kind of, there's some new legislation coming down from the state. So really it's determined by the state and the Brown Act. That'll be kind of providing those guidelines to us on what we can and can't do. I think Zoom has been great for a lot of us, but my understanding is that at the state level, that was really allowed through the state of emergency, and they're looking at what coming out of that looks like, but the move is back likely towards more in person.
And just really quick, the state of emergency ends in like February, is that right?
Yeah, it's at the end of February.
Yeah.
Jamie, when you joined the board, were you in person?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of boards and commissioners and across all of our boards and commissions who have not been in person before. So it'll be a shift for sure.
Great. So it looks like we'll revisit this probably in the next meeting when we know more about, once the state of emergency ends in February, what are the options, right? Are we
we can put that on the agenda for January to have another discussion on this.
Great. All right, any other questions, comments from the public?
No public comment. No public comment. Do we need to have a motion or not for this?
Yes, so okay. Does anybody want to motion to approve the calendar?
I'll move.
I think there's also the question of August and December, if you want to decide that now or in the future.
Maybe we should wait to decide on that just to see if we need to like figure out other meetings, like what we have to do in terms of in person. That may sway people to decide to cancel 2 meetings as opposed to 1.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my 2 cents.
Because Henry and Catherine, also just for clarification, and I may be forgetting this, clearly my head is all over the place right now, but there's also a new stipulation, right? Where you can, boards or a trustee can only miss only 2 meetings now. That got passed, right? Wasn't that part of that?
Yeah, we did. I'd have to pull up what the exact, I think it's unexcused absences.
Yeah, consecutive too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's only consecutive. Got it. Okay.
It's 2 consecutive unexcused absences.
Got it. Okay. I couldn't recall. Got it.
Right. And if you're out of town, if you're sick, you let us know. Those are excused.
Henry looks like a slave driver. I think he might he's not going to excuse any absences in the new calendar year.
If you write an essay of like 500 words or more on why you miss.
So should our motion be just to continue this till the January meeting when we have more information and better idea of calendars?
Well, we don't have any meetings on calendar. We'd have to move to at least approve the schedule.
Should we move to accept the January 10th meeting date and continue all other schedule confirmation to the January 10th meeting? Is that
I think
appropriate?
we could vote to approve the kind of second Tuesday at 6 p.m. time as the general schedule, and then next meeting to discuss any dates that may need to be canceled or moved.
Okay, so I'll move that we accept the proposed schedule of the second Tuesday as indicated, with January 10th as the first meeting of 2023, And at that meeting, we will confirm any specific date changes or cancellations for the year.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ginger, can you roll call vote, please?
Trustee Endo,
Aye.
Trustee Cortez,
Aye.
Trustee Lentini,
Aye.
Trustee Vidot,
Aye.
Chair Duque.
Aye. Thank you. So item 5, selection of chair and vice chair. Henry, over to you.
Yes, I have a short presentation. I will share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So annually, the Board of Trustees selects a chair and vice chair. We also review any board appointments and make changes if necessary. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees select a new chair and vice chair and review any potential board assignments for the next year, January, December 2023, sorry, extra period. The election is by a majority vote of the board, and the term of service is 1 year, beginning in January. The intent is that, you know, it rotates so everyone gets a chance, and usually we go by, you know, roughly by seniority, as long as people want to serve generally. And the term for the boards and commission is 2 4-year terms. So that kind of spreads it out, but you can't serve more than 2. So you would not serve as chair more than once in 7 consecutive years, I guess, by the math. That ends my presentation with a sort of, what's implied is that the board will discuss among themselves and nominate and vote on chair and vice chair, with the understanding that the role of the chair is to kind of facilitate the meeting, thus the script, and the vice chair will be there to back the chair up if they can't do it. Did I leave anything out?
No, I think you got it. So last time this conversation happened, Jamie was chair, and then I became vice chair as the one that came behind you, right? And then when it was time to change, I became chair, which I think was a year ago. So we just did it by tenure. Mm-hmm. So Cheryl, I think you're the next in tenure.
Yeah, I think so. And then behind me is Alex, the vice chair. Is that what we would do then? Mm-hmm. Following that model? Sounds good to me.
Cheryl's ready.
I'm ready. I almost was thrust into it this evening. You know, Adriana wasn't here yet, and I was relieved, and so I have never had a chance to do the script yet. So I suppose, you know, it's just time to be my turn.
That was the test you passed.
Thank you, Cheryl. And sorry, I joined.
Oh no, thank you. I wasn't ready.
So yeah, lesson learned from me. Have it ready before the meeting. So any motions to accept Cheryl as chair and Alex as vice chair?
Adriana is the outgoing chair. Maybe you want a motion?
I motion for Cheryl to be the next chair and Alex the next vice chair.
I'll second.
Great. Ginger, can you roll call vote, please?
All right, and there are no public comments. Okay, so Trustee Endo?
Aye.
Trustee Cortez?
Aye.
Trustee Lentini?
Aye.
Trustee Vidot?
Aye.
Chair Duque?
Aye. Thank you. Congratulations, new chair and vice chair. So item number 6, other brief reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended by board members. Did anyone attend any meetings, conferences, seminars? Jamie.
I just, when I was thinking about this, Henry and Catherine, I'm sure all of us attend meetings and seminars for our own work, but what in particular are we looking for when we're talking about this item? 6 years in, I'm finally asking this question, but curious.
Yeah, I think often, the first thing that we would typically expect this item to cover would be if this group is liaison to any other kind of steering committees or any other projects, like when we had the general plan, or now we have the park and recreation master plan, things like that.
Oh,
I think
great.
if you all do have any activities that you do in your spare time or through your work that you think would be relevant to this group, that's also fine to share here. So those sorts of things.
Thanks. I actually did know that. Nothing said that.
Also,
Seriously.
if you had attended any library programs, like we had an indie author thing on a Saturday, or had anything to say about that, it would be cool.
Right. Actually, no, maybe this is actually not I'm not sure where to put this. So tell me if this needs to go somewhere else or as a different item. But I am one of the co-leads of the DEI program at my daughter's school, so Vallecito Elementary School in Northern San Rafael. And one of the things that we have been working on very closely with the school district on is doing a land acknowledgement, but also beyond a land acknowledgement, really looking at a collaborative partnership. And so wondering if that's something that either the city's doing, or something that the board here can do as a model. And if this is not obviously the right place to talk about it now and agendize it, I'd love to put that on somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that the mayor has been doing a land acknowledgement at the beginning of every city council meeting. I also know, Henry, what your staff had done quite a lot of research around this. Was that what you were gonna jump in to share on?
Yes, and tentatively, we had approval to maybe move forward with incorporating that into some general meetings. I think that we do have it posted on the website. I was just going to look at it here. Yeah. So and Jill Harris, can I share my screen? She did a lot of work on this. So if the board could consider at a future meeting whether to make that official as part of the
We can also reach out to the city clerk if there's been any talk about making that a broader.
Can everyone see the land acknowledgement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So or if there would be any issue with this group, I do think probably as chair, Cheryl could make that part of her typical opening. But we can ask the city clerk if there's been any broader discussion citywide on that.
Great. Any other meetings now that we have a little more clarification as to what constitutes content that's relevant?
I didn't attend a meeting, but when we were in Italy the other month, in Bologna, they had this event that sounded absolutely adorable at their library. They had an event where boys and girls could bring like their stuffed animals or puppets or toys to the library. and leave them overnight for a slumber party, and the librarians would like be the caretakers where their toys could lie down overnight and read books and tell stories to each other, and then the children would come pick up their stuffed animals in the morning after they had their slumber party together in the library. I have no idea how it went. I mean, you know, we didn't know where to find a library because we saw signs for it and advertisements for it. We didn't know where to go to like see like what this whole looked like in action, but it just sounded absolutely adorable. But that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seemed so much fun. It could have been a complete disaster and very brave of the library to take on, but
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because there's an actual program or history of one or precedent for where the kids actually stay overnight, but this is way easier.
I figured like that
Yeah.
seemed to be like a much lower risk activity.
Yeah. It's sort of like, yeah, that could be very, I think it could capture the imagination. So that's interesting. But then you could take the stuffed animals, then kind of make a little stop motion video with them and show how they were like moving in the night.
Yep.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
Mm-hmm. I can also bring up something now that regulations are going to be changing what employers are required to do for employees. So my area of work and research is employee engagement, employee experience, and how organizations can retain and engage their staff. And so one area that is a big question, a big topic of discussion is, should we ask everyone to come into the office? I think in the headlines, we've seen that when bosses have demanded that, it often results in a lot of disgruntledness and attrition. So I think that the consensus really, from the data and from listening to employees across different industries, is that people want flexibility, right? Whether it's on-site or off-site, just the flexibility to be able to choose or to have some degree of autonomy and choice as to where, when, and how they work. So even for on-site employees, like library employees, what are tasks that can be portable and feasible to take home, for example, to work around children or parental responsibilities or other activities, and what are tasks that must be done on site. And then of those tasks that can be done on site, or that should be done on site, how much flexibility can we offer in terms of time, right? So when there's no location flexibility because of the realities of the job, what time flexibility can we offer? And a lot of companies are investing on some scheduling systems to make it easier for people to select their schedules, to change their schedules at short notice without having to go through, very bureaucratic or inflexible processes. So flexibility is a key to attract and retain talent in the future. People are willing to forego a salary increase or a better job offer in terms of compensation for flexibility and for also wellness and well-being and work-life balance opportunities.
Yes. I would like to respond to that if that's okay, Catherine.
Please.
Oh, I'm excited by that flexibility. I think, particularly with regards to the library, we've been using an online schedule where we can sort of drag and drop people around, and we're very flexible and have to be kind of with regards to people's schedules, given that a lot of people commute from the East Bay, and the challenge with running an on-site operation that offers services is that we schedule people at the service desk sort of like the Disney way. like Disney only puts you on out with people 30 minutes at a time. So we tend to not want to schedule people the whole day with people, but break it up and have them do their other projects. And that sort of necessitates everyone kind of being around. But within that, there definitely is potentials, like one of our staff had family on another continent. They do a lot of our social media and online stuff, and they were over there. You know, this is a major relative, and they were able to kind of do a little bit of flexible work, you know, but the city has been, you know, defining what that looks like, in particularly in library, because we offer in-person service, that ability to be flexible with regards to the schedule, and because we run 7 days a week till, you know, more than 8 hours a day till the night we have a second shift, it becomes a little challenging compared to, like, you know, a completely information economy. But within that, because each of our people is empowered kind of from the human design element that you saw on staff day to be sort of autonomously creating stuff, like just kind of like given the permission to create and innovate, creating story time, creating programs, creating relationships, creating outreach. You know, they're like creating it. It's like they're not just slicing the Cinnabons and putting them on the tray. They're like coming up with the recipe, you know, changing it up, you know, like looking at new things. So within that context, I think that we are able to offer a compelling experience and be flexible with regards to the challenges. You know, and I think the thing that we can really do is a flexible schedule, you know, that has to go through HR, but, you know, 980, who works early, because it works out. Some people like to work, you know, this is true. Some people like to work Tuesday through Saturday, you know, because they're used to the librarian's life is people work on both weekend days. So it's worked out pretty well so far without the need to kind of, and when we didn't, with the need to sort of force people to do things, but what we do is we spread the burden. So we rotate weekends. So people have a rotating weekend schedule sometimes, and that has worked really well. Because what we don't want is, if you come on Saturday and Sunday you want to get the A team. You don't want to get the B team on Saturday and Sunday. Though you'll get a lot of subs, but there's going to be at least a couple people who are the A team. I don't mean to like compare, but people who are regular hire staff know more than temporary workers who are only working a couple of shifts per week, and they can actually give you the complete service, know where things are, kind of, you know, not that some of our temp people or all of them are completely awesome. They just may know less about the entire operation. So does that?
Yeah, this is great. Sounds like the library is in line with what best practice to attract and retain employees, and yeah, having that ability, technology mediated or otherwise, for people to have more autonomy and empowerment to select their schedules, and to a degree, right? Because ultimately we are customer facing, we are on-site based, but to the extent that we can offer flexibility and reasonable working hours and shifts. I like that Disney model of balancing in front of customer versus not time. I think that also leads to less burnout, because it's the highest levels of burnouts what we're seeing today. Then the last thing I'll say is another big topic right now for the future of work is that, and I know the library is also in line with this, is that organizations need to shift from hiring by degree, previous job title, previous organization, to skill-based. And I remember we talked about this probably months ago, how we changed in the library from looking at master's degrees to relaxing a little bit the degree requirements to really focus on skills, because then that expands your labor market pool and your ability to attract and retain from a more diverse talent pool as well. You know, not just those who have the time and resources to have a postgraduate degree, whilst helping people acquire those degrees as well, because that is one certain way to acquire skills, no doubt.
Specifically the soft skills versus the technical skills in the library field, or, you know, within human design and teamwork, the ability to communicate with people is like that sort of soft skills versus, like, you know, typically with library, like cataloging skills is somewhat of an arcane kind of like a framework thing. So though we do expect people to we give them the ability to develop the skills on the job and to work up the ladder without having to have the degree to get there. Yes. So I think we actually are among a small subset of libraries, like in California and the United States, that don't require the master's degree. And we've been able to attract some great talent because of that. You know, someone who might have they have several master's degrees already and they might not want another one, but they are super skilled and, you know, they want to be a librarian. So yeah.
So you look for those skills and you evaluate for those skills, which is harder than just looking at a previous job title or a degree to say, okay, this certifies a person as a skill, versus you have to then work a little harder to understand what a person's skills are, right? And that's what a lot of organizations aren't willing to do, to take that extra step and slight risk. So that could be a good case study in expanding your labor market pool, diversifying your labor market pool, having a more diverse workforce.
Yeah, I think of these things and think, wow, I should write that up, you know, and submit it to a journal or something. But it's like, then it kind of goes out of my mind and like, it's like something else happens. But yes.
Maybe the Marine IJ could do a piece.
Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. That's my
Cool.
my piece on
Nice.
meetings and conferences that I've attended.
Yeah.
That could be relevant. Any other comments on this? Shall we move to the next item? Staff reports and comments on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended by staff.
So I'll start. NorthNet hasn't met in a while, and it hasn't met since we last talked, and that's that state official consortium from here to the Oregon border and over to Nevada and down to Sacramento. MarinNet board met last week. We're planning the annual retreat for sometime early next year, still wondering whether it will be in person. Seems like there's this sort of mini resurgence of COVID in a way, kind of. We're looking at the staffing model of the MarinNet you know, organization, and to see efficiencies to reduce that overall bill that is always getting larger. I was tasked to lead the equity discussion, and I used an article from our own internal DEIB process. 3 were provided to me, so I chose one about how, which was a compelling study, I think from possibly a Stanford professor, about how diversity makes us better because it makes people sort of rise and perform more efficiently when they're in diverse groups, and like scientific studies about, I mean, they even used the example when Democrats have to talk to Republicans that are different than them, they tend to come up with more compelling like arguments or discussions rather than talking to people that are the same. So being different really makes us stronger, which is, you know, I think a positive. MarinNet is going to move the online catalog to a cloud-based host rather than the local host, which I think is a great thing because there have been multiple issues when the physical memory at the location at Los Gamos somehow got overtaxed and the thing went down versus redundant backups in the cloud. Totally awesome. So friends of the library have moved their meeting time to be the week after the board usually meets, second Wednesday of the month, and we met at the Centerville Community Center. Friends have moved to a new model where the library presents what we've spent money that they gave us on, what we want to spend money on, and provide data every meeting about the spending, which has been useful. So that the friends can sort of allocate their funding on a yearly basis and sort of rather than looking at each item, which is very productive. And the friends have done pretty well on their book sales this year coming out of COVID. People are pretty excited about, buying books, particularly the rare and special. And Pam related that there are a number of people that are only there for ephemera, random papers and pamphlets and stuff that come in sort of old book boxes, which is kind of interesting. Who knew? So, and then the foundation, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm trying. I wasn't at the last foundation.
Oh, I was there.
I was sick.
Okay, you're right. Okay, foundation meeting. The foundation is making a movie based on Joe O'Hare's experience with Whistle Stop to Vivillon. The aspiration is to create a short 10-minute film that shows Centerville Library and talks about the need for a modern library and what that might look like by interviewing, like you've seen in Friday Memo, we have those patron profiles. We were able to follow up with several of those customers, patrons, and get them to come and tell their stories about what the library means to them. And this is going to be in a documentary format. They have some drone footage. I learned what B-roll was. I guess I'm the only person in the world that didn't know, but and they want to kind of spotlight and to sort of build awareness and enthusiasm for what it means to the community to have a modern library and what the current library provides and what a modern library could help increase, and maybe looking at some other libraries. So that's a pretty great project. They're also working on the annual appeal letter, which will go out later. But the foundation remains hopeful for to kind of support a larger effort beyond the kind of small amount of money the library has received from the state to fix those life safety infrastructure issues, electrical, plumbing, fire suppression, some small asbestos, code issues, and expanding the Pickleweed Library within its footprint. So it's an exciting time. Did I leave anything out?
Well, I was just going to add that on those lines, the RFP for an architect for those improvements to the downtown library closed at the beginning of December, and we were excited to get some really qualified proposals. So we're going to be interviewing a few of those on Friday. And so hoping to kind of bring that forward, bring a contract forward to City Council for approval in the new year. So we expect that this board will be definitely receiving regular updates on that project as we move forward. So I think that was the one big thing I wanted to make sure we shared. Oh, and actually, also along those lines, on Monday, City Council will be approving the acceptance of those 2 Building Forward state grants. So that's kind of just part of the process, but it will be on the City Council will be reviewing that on their consent calendar. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Well, thank you for the updates. I think that was our last item. So, public comment, Jinder?
No public comment.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much. I think that concludes our meeting for today. Next meeting is January 10, 2023. So,
although don't forget that the boards and commissions reception is tomorrow.
Yes.
For anyone interested in going.
Who is going? I'm going.
I'm gonna wear this sweater.
I'm on toddler duty tomorrow, so I can't go, unfortunately.
You know, I unfortunately have to go to a Santa Fe City School District Community Schools meeting, so I won't be there, but I know Henry will be representing.
I know, if we could bring kids, I'd be there. Maybe next year.
It's a good.
You should make that suggestion to Lindsay.
Mm-hmm. There should be a kid area.
It's like a ball pit.
Yeah.
But yes.
No COVID ball. I think ball pits like went away with COVID, Henry.
Sure, we can figure something out, like ghost stories at Falkirk.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We do have a whole childcare division.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
That's a good one. Yes.
Well, I went last year and I unfortunately didn't see anyone from this group.
I was there, but I had to leave early, probably because of the aforementioned toddler, which is, yes, you are a toddler, which is why I've got video off, because we're dealing with quite a meltdown right now. So I'm going to sign off, but have a great year, great holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Okay, say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So cute.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Happy holidays. Happy
Bye.
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 Bye.